All right, my friend, today we are continuing in our series going through the Old Testament Tabernacle of Moses, a 3D tour where we are analyzing every single aspect and every single detail and every single piece of furniture in this tabernacle. And we are looking at how Jesus Christ is the ultimate fulfillment, and everything in this tabernacle is a foreshadowing or a type of the person and work of Jesus Christ. In the last video, I gave you an overview or a lay of the land of the entire tabernacle, the dimensions and how it was broken up. In this video, we're going to start with the outer gate. That was the very first thing that you had to go through in order to get to the presence of God. So I'm going to show you a 3D version of the outer gate and what that might have looked like if you were an Old Testament worshiper. Okay, so if you were an Old Testament worshiper, you would bring your animal sacrifice to the front gate. You'd be met by a priest. And as you can see here, you would then be granted access to bring that sacrificial animal into the outer court where you would proceed to offer it as a sacrifice on the bronze altar of sacrifice, which we're going to talk about in the next video. So let's read about this outer gate. In Exodus chapter 27, verse 16, it says, "For the gate of the court, there shall be a screen 20 cubits long." Now, let's just break that down. A cubit is about the length from a man's elbow to the tip of his finger. All right, so that's about 18 inches or so. So that was how they would measure it. So 20 cubits actually ends up being about 30 feet long. So as you can remember, the outer court was 75 feet wide, but this gate that you had to enter into was only 30 feet wide. Now let's keep going. 20 cubits long, of blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. It shall have 4 pillars, and with them 4 bases. Now let's talk about the application of this outer gate. Well, it's very clear that if you wanted to have fellowship with God, and remember from the last video that God said that he was going to be dwelling in a small 15-foot by 15-foot square room at the back of the tabernacle on the west side, which is a room called the Holy of Holies, or the most holy place. And God said, if you even want to have a chance of getting back there and having fellowship with me, once again, only the high priest could go in there. But later on, I'm going to talk about how we are all believer priests as a New Testament saints. You could only come in one way. That gate was located on the east side. You couldn't come in from the west. You couldn't come in from the south. You couldn't come in from the north. You could only come in the way that God prescribed it. Now, how did Jesus fulfill this? Jesus described himself in this way. Beautiful symbolism in this series. We're just getting started. Notice Jesus said here in John 10 and 9, "Yes, I am the gate." Do you see that? See, everything in the Old Testament tabernacle is a picture and a foreshadowing of the person and work of Jesus Christ. He says, "I am the gate," not a gate, the only gate. "Those who come in through me will be saved. They will come and go freely and will find good pastures." So if I want to have fellowship with God on any level, I can't come in through Buddha. I can't come in through Muhammad. I can't come in through Confucius. I can't come in through New Age. I can't come in through any other way other than coming through Christ. He is the way. He is the gate, and that is the starting point of fellowship with God. Now watch this. This is super, super cool. Do you remember that in order to enter into the gate, you had to bring something? You couldn't come empty-handed. You had to bring a sacrifice, which lets us know, as we're going to talk about in the next video, that if you want to have fellowship with God, you can't come into God's presence empty-handed. You had to bring something. Now, there were 5 different offerings that the people were able to bring, But for the sake of time in this video, we're only going to talk about 2 of them that you had to bring if you wanted to get past the outer gate. And my friend, this is one of the most beautiful pictures of grace that you're ever going to see in the Bible. I can't wait to blow your mind with it. Let's check it out. Looking at Leviticus chapter 5, verses 5 through 13, it tells us how we are to bring our offerings and what types of offering they were to bring to the Lord. Notice it says, when you become aware of your guilt in any of these ways, you must confess your sin. So the first offering we're going to look at is what's called the sin offering. If you had become aware of something that you've done wrong, then you were required by the law to bring a sin offering. Now let's read. Then you must bring to the Lord as the penalty for your sin a female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat. This is a sin offering with which the priest will purify you from your sin, making you right with the Lord. So there it is, folks. If you sinned against the Lord, you were required to bring a female sheep or goat. But what happens if you don't have a goat? You don't have a sheep to bring because you're poor. I want you to notice that the Lord gave provisions and made provisions for people who were not able to bring that type of sacrifices. This is a beautiful picture of grace. Let's read about it. It says here, but if you cannot afford to bring a sheep, you may bring to the Lord 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons as the penalty for your sin. One of the birds will be for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. And it goes on to say what you need to do with that. But now, what if you don't have a turtle dove or a pigeon and you're really, really poor and you don't have anything to give? God made another provision. Let's keep going. It says down here, if you cannot afford to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, you may bring 2 quarts of choice flour for your sin offering. Then it goes on to say, through this process, the priest will purify those who are guilty of any of these sins, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. So my friend, I love this application right here. This is basically teaching us to come as we are. This is a message for the believer and the unbeliever alike. Listen, there's going to be days whenever you will be able to give God a great offering. You will be rich on that day. You'll be spiritually rich. You'll be able to bring a female sheep or a goat. You're in a good place spiritually, right? But there's going to be some other days when you are spiritually broke. You're spiritually poor. You're spiritually depleted. And instead of God saying, no, you have to bring this goat, you have to bring this sheep, he says, you know what? I'm going to meet you where you are. And if you're not able to bring that, which I require, I still want to have fellowship with you, even though you are spiritually poor and spiritually broke on that day. That is a beautiful picture of grace, my friend, because we may not always have it all together. Some days are better than others, and God still wants to have fellowship with us. And also, if you're an unbeliever watching this video, just know that you don't have to have it all together to have a relationship with God. God will meet you right where you are. Now, that's the first type of offering that you had to bring to the outer gate. But there was another offering. Once again, there were 5, but we'll talk about 2 of them in this video. And that is called the peace offering, or some people call it the thank offering. Now, this one was voluntary. The sin offering was mandatory. You had to bring that. But the peace offering or the thank offering was voluntary. Now, let's read about that. It says here in Leviticus 7, these are the instructions regarding the different kinds of peace offerings that may be presented to the Lord. If you present your peace offering as an expression of thanksgiving, the usual animal sacrifice must be accompanied by various kinds of bread made without yeast, thin cakes mixed with olive oil, wafers spread with oil, and cakes made with choice flour mixed with olive oil. So here is the application here. Don't just come to the Lord whenever you're in sin and you need forgiveness for your sin and you want to get cleansed for your sin. You should also come to God when you're thankful. Come to God whenever you just say, God, I just want to give this to you. I just want to dedicate my time to you. I want to give you a sacrifice of praise from the fruit of my lips. I want to give this extra financial offering and blessing to you, Lord, and for your work. So we don't just come to God whenever we need something from him. We come to God whenever we want to express our gratitude to him. That is the reason why later on in the Psalms, God said, enter his gates. There it is. With thanksgiving, go into his courts. Remember the outer court and the inner court. Come into his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. So my friend, you can praise God when you come into the courts, or you can come and receive forgiveness. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about in this video as it relates to the outer gate and really the outer court in general is the color of the curtains. I want you to notice that the color of these curtains was white linen. Now, that is super, super important. There's all sorts of symbolism in the colors. We could go crazy and looking at all the colors, the scarlet, the red, the purple, and all these things. But we clearly know that the color white represents cleansing, purity, right? And so I want you to notice this in the book of Revelation, chapter 19, verse 8. Here it says, she has been given the finest of pure white linen. For the fine linen represents the good deeds of God's holy people. You see, what this is saying is that when Jesus comes back, the second coming, we are going to be dressed in white robes, right? Representing cleansing and purity. In the same way, whenever they were in this outer court and they saw the white curtains, it was a reminder of purity. It was a symbol of purity. It was symbolizing how God could take a sinful person and cleanse and purify them. Now, not only did these white curtains typify our purity, but it was also a sign of Jesus' purity as well. I want you to remember whenever Jesus transfigured himself in front of Peter, James, and John, it says here, and his clothes became dazzling white, far whiter than any earthly bleach could ever make them. My friend, if you're not seeing the symbolism of Jesus Christ and how he is a foreshadowing and a fulfillment of every single aspect of the tabernacle, then my friend, we're just getting started. Next video you don't want to miss, 2 days from now, we're going to be talking about the bronze altar of sacrifice. And I can't wait to get there. We're going to do a 3D tour of it. As you can tell, I'm excited. I'll see you in the next video. If you're finding this series helpful in any way, do me a favor and share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would love it if you would subscribe. Check out some of the other videos while you're here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time on The Beat.